Hello again. I want to just continue on in this series of teachings in regards to retaining and maintaining our joy. Now, we've covered quite a lot in this series, and I want to just continue on a couple of other things. We've been, as we've been studying through this, through the book of Philippians, there's many things that Paul has brought out that help us to retain our joy because one of the main things with Christians is sometimes you don't realize how important joy is in a life. You know, and I've mentioned it many times as we've gone through this study. The weakness, we could say, the immaturity of a lot of Christians is because of the lack of joy that's in their life. And the reason I say that is because the Bible says that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And I want to tell you, life to a certain degree can be unbearable when we haven't got the strength to fight our opponent, but we haven't got the strength to fight the devil because we've lost our joy, and he just overpowers us. He makes our life a misery, and he knows this, and this is why he uses a lot of things to strip us of our joy, to rip us off of our joy. And that's why I've gone to great lengths putting together a lot of things. They're not massive. They're not massive deep things. They're very simple. Some of them very easy, very simple. And I'll just go over a few again. I'm not going to recap on them. Things that cause us to lose our joy, to stop us maintaining our joy. We said it's the circumstances, certain things in life, different things that are just the least little thing that will upset us, you know what I mean? Circumstance, situation in life. And, some Christians, they control wobblers very, very easily. And when things is not going the way, the circumstance of life is not going the way, all sorts of things can take place in their life. They lose the joy, they're not nice to be around. And this can happen to us all. And this is the reason why we need to put these, they're only small things, but we need to put them into practice. We need to make some alterations and changes in our life. And we need to incorporate these things in our life to help us to retain and maintain our joy. I said there's people, things, worry, wrong thinking, not thinking like a soldier. We went into a lot of stuff in regards to that. We talked about complaining. People is complaining all the time. You won't have much joy if you keep complaining. We talked about having a good conscience if your mind is set properly. Ingratitude can cause you to lose your joy. Take control of your emotions. Devil plays with our emotions. We also spoke about having confidence through affliction. That's one of the things that we lose our joy. Things happen, and we just lose it. Also, last time we spoke about taking control of our stinking thinking. Take control of our thinking because that plays a massive part. And this is what Paul is addressing here. He said there's a mind frame that we need to have, a mindset, an attitude that we need to have in regards to our thinking, in regards to our mind. He speaks about, and that's why we're using the book of Philippians, because all of the stuff in our life is filtered through our mind, and then it walks right through. We're in our life, we go down roads, we said it before, we go down roads that we shouldn't go. There's thinking, we just don't put the brake on, we just, we've been down the road before, but we're going down it again. And we know sometimes when we go down that road, it brings back memories and hurts and all sorts of things. And through that, we lose our joy. And I want to look at something else from Philippians in chapter 2, verse 12. It says, therefore, my beloved, he says, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence only, but how much more in my absence. And then he says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. What he's saying is, look after your own life, or we could say, take responsibility for your own life. That's basically what he said. You take after, he said, work out your own salvation. You're responsible for your own salvation. You're responsible for your own life. You're responsible for your own joy. And that's what I want to touch on. Just a couple of little things here that will help us to realize our joy is stolen, or we lose the joy many times. We don't retain it because we don't realize sometimes that we're responsible for our own joy. We think that other people are responsible for it. You know, if they would just do something, or if they would stop doing something, or this and that, the other, if people would change and if they would sort of stall out, sort of life out, and different things, I'd be a lot more joyful, a lot more happy. But I want to tell you, a lot of other people are not going to change the life for you, whether they're a believer or a non-believer. They're just going to probably keep living their life unless they take on board some of the things that we've been teaching over the last couple of months. They'll continue to do what they want, and you can't live your life waiting on someone else to change. We've got to change. We've got to change. If you want things to happen in your life, you want to retain and maintain your joy, you can't rely on other people. It's not other people's responsibility. It's your responsibility. My responsibility to maintain and retain our joy. We're responsible for the condition of our own heart and our own attitudes. See, and if we have a bad attitude, we have a bad heart, then we need to say, there's no point blaming other people for what's wrong in my life. And that's what can happen sometimes, where we can blame other people for what's going on in our life. We say, the reason that, I'm not as happy, and the reason I'm not as content, and the reason not got no peaceful life, not got no joy in my life, is because if someone else, you know what I mean? It's because of other things. We can blame other people for what's wrong in our life. But I want to tell you, it won't make any difference. You can blame them from now. Kingdom coming, it make no difference in their life. As I said before, it's you and I that need to change. It's you and I that need to make the alterations. See, as Christians, we need to be willing to face the truth about ourselves, about our attitude and our behavior. It's quite easy to be able to point out the flaws in others, and we don't mind telling other people the truth about themselves. But often we have difficulty facing the truth about ourselves. What I'm saying this evening is that we can see the fault in other people and the lack of responsibility that people take for their own actions, their own life, and their own attitude, and their own condition of the mind. And it's so easy to be able to tell them where they're going wrong, and saying, you know what, it's like what we should do is we should take some of our own advice for ourselves. We're great at giving advice to other people, this, that, if you just done this, if you just stop doing this, or this, that, and all the rest. But we need to take some of our own advice. It's easy telling other people the truth about themselves. But as I said, what we have to do is take responsibility for our own life. It's a difficult thing for us a lot of times to face the truth about ourselves. And some people have to tell us the truth about ourselves the same way that we tell other people the truth about them. And we expect them to take it on board and to a certain degree. But not so easy when it comes around the other way. And really what I'm doing through these teachings, and I don't know you from Adam, but you're out there. I don't know who I'm speaking to. I know some people I'm speaking to from our congregation, from our church, but there's other people that may just come on board and be looking at some of the teachings over the last couple of months. And what I'm actually doing, I don't know you personally, but basically a lot of the things that I'm talking about is something that we all have to contend with. So none of us are exempt. So you're looking in this evening, you're not exempt, and neither am I, from some of these things in our life. And if only we could make an adjustment and alteration in our life, I want to tell you, we'd be able to retain our joy. So let's just continue on this evening and have a look at some of these things. Sometimes people try to make other people responsible for their joy. That's what they're saying. They want to give someone else responsibility instead of taking that responsibility for themselves, because we are responsible. We need to admit that it's our joy and not someone else's responsibility. It's our responsibility. It's our joy, and it's our responsibility to retain it and maintain it. If you're looking for someone else, I want to tell you, they're going to let you down. We can all let people down, and it's a reality life that we know, when we love people, they love us and different things. But I want to tell you, they let us down. They let us down and we let others down. And that's why we have to take responsibility for our own joy. Don't depend on someone else for you to retain your joy, to keep your joy, because it will not work that way. It's not easy to take responsibility in life. Whether it's our job, whether it's our finances, whether it's our relationship, whether it's things that we have that we've got to maintain, we have a responsibility to maintain them. Responsibility doesn't come easy. And that's why sometimes when we're looking for people or we're looking for someone to do something, it's finding responsible people, people that we know that's responsible in their own life, and we want to delegate something to them or give them something to, some responsibility. This can be in ministry, it can be in church, it can be just in secular life, that we give someone a responsibility to take care of something. It's quite hard sometimes to find people that you can delegate things to give responsibility to, because a lot of people don't like responsibility. You say, I don't want this. Maybe it's in your place of employment and different things, and people, your boss may think you're up for promotion or something, and you say, so-and-so, they'd be great at doing this. You've got the ability to do it. That you can do the task. That you probably do a good job on it. And everybody may approach it, or this may even have happened to you, or it could happen to you, that you'll be approaching, to take on another responsibility. They want to give you another stripe, another star, your place of appointment, whatever. But some people just don't. I'd rather just come in and go, and just do a little bit of job and then go home. I don't want any responsibility. See, we don't like responsibility. Majority of people don't like responsibility, whether it's for something else or whether it's for ourselves. A lot of times, I just want plain sailing. I want no responsibility. Don't give me any extra responsibility. Don't give me anything. I just want to. I don't want to have that thing. I don't want have that to do. I just want it easy and all of this. And sometimes we just think just life in the Christian life. I just want plain sailing. I don't want any hassle or anything. I don't want the responsibility. But I want to say, as a believer, we have a massive responsibility. We have a responsibility in a lot of areas. We have a responsibility for our family, to be a witness and a testimony, to have a good character before them. There's all sorts of things. We have a responsibility, but we just don't like it. Responsibility is not something that we like. A lot of people got no responsibility on finance. A lot of times they're not responsible for finances. They're not responsible with anything, really. And we could go on and on into these things, but we're not just taking one particular thing in regards to responsibility. I'm just throwing it out. Responsibility in general, we need to take responsibility for our own joy, because I want to tell you, other people, they're probably not interested in whether you're joyful or not. See, some people struggle to take ownership of their habits or their choices or shortcomings or their attitudes. They struggle to take ownership. What I mean by that is we don't like to say, I'm responsible for this. We struggle to take ownership. We think, I don't really want to be identified with that. I don't want to take ownership of that, because once we take ownership of something, we're responsible for it. Or what I'm saying also is, the reason we don't want to take ownership of something is because we like to blame someone else for it. We like to push it over to someone else. We don't want to take ownership for it. Because the reason I am like this, I'm not taking ownership of it because of my attitude of heart. It's because of crumminess in my heart or issues that I have. See, a lot of people have got a lot of issues. They've got a lot of issues in their life. And the thing is, the reason that they've got the issues in their life is because they're looking to people. We already go with that. They're looking to certain things. They've got attitudes and issues in their life, and they don't want to take responsibility, and they struggle to take ownership of these habits or their choice or shortcomings. You're going to push them over onto someone else to take ownership of them. Yeah, you take them. You're responsible. You take ownership for them. See, our personal accountability is essential to our joy. See, our personal accountability. See, we're accountable for our actions. We may be accountable to others in life for certain things, but but when we come to ourselves to take personal responsibility for our own things, sometimes it's quite hard. See, maintaining our joy comes from how we think. Now, we've covered a lot of this. How we think. It's a mind, a mindset, a mind frame, attitude of a mind that we have. And as I said, retaining or maintaining our joy, it comes from how we think. How we think. If we don't want to take responsibility, if we don't want to be accountable, it's a way of thinking. You have to change your way of thinking, because we've always thought that way. We always didn't want to be. We always lived their whole life not wanting to be responsible or take on board or take ownership of something and always push it over to someone else. But it's a way that we think. That, what we're talking about is changing our mindset. That's what Paul is talking about, and all of this, these things in the book of Philippians. He speaks about the mindset, thinking. The word is all over the chapters in the book of Philippians about a mind, emphasizes the mind and thinking a great lot. And that word of God said that we need to have the mind of Christ. You know what I mean? So this is what we're talking about, changing and altering our mind to think properly about our own accountability, about our own responsibility in regards to our joy. Retaining and maintaining our joy comes from the way we think, and also from the choices that we make in life. It's those choices that we make in life that cause us to lose the joy. But the thing is, this evening, you and I are responsible for our choices. We make a choice, and we have a responsibility for the choice that we make. But as I said, we don't like responsibility. And if you want to have sustained joy, you have to not only make sure that your thinking is right, but you also have to make good choices and decisions now that you're going to guarantee some joy in the future. See, that's the way it works. See, we make decisions, we make choices, we put them out there, and then we start living them out over the months and over the years, or whatever the case may be, only to find our bad choices that we make. And a lot of choices that we make is in regards to our attitude and the way that we think. The way that we think a lot of times. And that's why we need to be careful of the mindset and the mind frame and the attitude that we when we're making choices, the attitude that we have in making those choices. Because a lot of time we can make a choice, and like I said, the people, be very careful. When you've got issues and you've got attitudes in your life, you need to be careful when you make choices, because your attitude and your issues will show up in the choices that you've made. If you make a choice when you're mad at someone, or you make a choice, different things when you're under pressure, that's why I always should say, as people that know me, I always say, just leave it with me. Leave it with me. You know, so that I can have time to think things through, that I make the, I'm not saying I always make the right choice, but what I'm saying is we give some thinking, some serious thought to when we're making choices, because it will turn up in our attitude, it will turn up in how we portray ourselves in regards to whether we have joy or whether we haven't. And I want to tell you, a lot of bad choices are the result of why people have lost the joy. So that's something. It's something to think about. As I said, these are not massive big nuggets that we're digging out of the Word of God. They're just basic things. They're only small things that we're talking about. But yeah, it's like the Word of God says, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's not these massive big things. It says it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. Those little things. A lot of our fallouts and attitudes and different things in life is not really massive big things. The fallouts, people have fallouts and they don't talk to people for years, or whatever the case may be. and they'll probably, see them, at some event sometime or whatever, and that's the only time you'll ever have connection with them. It may take 10, 15, 20 years that you haven't seen someone because someone said something or someone discommoded something or whatever the case may be, and we have an issue and an attitude in our life, and therefore what happens is this an outworking of this is in our life that we're miserable and that we've lost the joy, and it can be a continual thing. And what I say, it's not this massive big thing that someone has done you have £1 million or $1 million or whatever the case may be. It is a very small thing, and it's just the way our mind takes things and the way our mind twists things around. The mind, I want to tell you, it'll drive you crazy, if you don't sort it out. And as I said, they're not big things, they're just small alterations that needs to be made. And if you want to sustain joy, you're not only going to have to make some wise choices, but you're going to have to make some sure choices in regards to thinking right, but you're also going to have to make good choices, because these are going to guarantee, good choices is going to guarantee you joy in the future. And that's what we really need to think about. As I said, these things that we're talking about are not massive things. And it's what we call sometimes is fine tuning. It's fine tuning. And some of you may understand what you know anything about vehicles, about cars and that. If it's not fine tuned, it's running rough. You know what I mean? It needs to be. They used to bring a car in years ago to have it tuned. To have it tuned. They don't do much of that now, but you used to bring it in. It was running like an old dog. It was barking back at you. You start up and you think, I'm going to have to get this tuned. I'm going to have to bring it in. And all it was, the mechanic, all he did was just fiddled about a couple of little things, just little things. He didn't take the whole engine out. It wasn't the whole engine. It was just some very, very small particle. Maybe it was a carburetor, years ago the carburetor, you always had to just let it down a little bit, that little nut. There, you just had to twist it down a little bit, and then it was, it was just pouring like a kitten then. Before it was like barking like a dog, and now, he didn't take the engine out, put all new things, pistons in, and all the big stuff and all that. No, all it needed was fine tuning. It happens as well, the old radios that they used to have. I got one just behind me there. An old radio there, you might be able to see it there. One of those old radios there, that's one that I kept for keepsake that my dad had. And that was one of those old radios. And I remember he used to have it on the shelf out in his conservatory. And he used to listen to it. You'd be trying to listen to what it's saying. He'd be talking, he'd be trying to listen to what it was saying on the radio or whatever. But because it was an old one, they had knobs on it. And you had to tune the radio in. It wasn't all this laser phase that we have now, all this digital stuff, that wasn't there. And it used to tune it. You used to have to get the pointer right, and the pointer had to be on the right frequency, just the thickness of paper L, and it would crackle all over the place. And it had to be fine-tuned. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. It had to be fine-tuned. If you're listening to that this evening, you probably know. You think, what's this guy going on about, tune and crackling and all the rest of it? But you have some understanding in old radios. Used to that little hand used to go up and down. But the point I'm making is, all it is so small and so minute. It's only a small thing, but all it has to do is just being pointed on the right station, and it was as clear as a bell. Just the thickness of a paper out, and it was crackling. See, that's the way our life is. That's the point I'm making. That's how our life is. Fine-tuned with a vehicle or a radio or whatever instrument, things have to be tuned. They have to be fine-tuned, or we've got the posh word now, we calibrate things now. We didn't calibrate the radio, we just pointed, but we calibrate things. It means the right measurement or the right setting or the right amount. We have to fine tune it to get it just the right taste, or giving out the right quantity, whatever it is. And that's the way the Christian life is in regards to joy. You need to fine tune. There's some things, and all it is, some of these things in our life, all it is just very, very small things. These are all very, very easy, very small things. They're not massive big nuggets dug out of the Word of God. They're just very, very practical things. But I want to tell you, if not pointed right, not set right in our life, they'll play havoc with our life. It'll cause misery. It'll cause despair. It'll cause depression. I want to tell you that when you lose your joy, you know what I mean? It's just like a cloud sometimes come over you. And I want to tell you, the devil loves getting us in this place because he knows that once he's get us there, he's weakening us and he's beating us. He'll beat us down. And I want to tell you, once he's beaten us down, he'll defeat us in every other area. That's why joy is so important in the Christian life. So important in the Christian life to have joy. It brings stability and strength, vigor, vitality in our life that we can stand and withstand all of the storms, all of the rubbish that the devil wants to throw at us in our life. Fine tune your life. Allow that joy, to be exhibited. Sort out those issues. Sort out those attitudes in our life. Just sort them out and get rid of them. You got to sort them out on yourself. I want to sometimes the issues that we have, the attitudes that we have, they can be about a certain situation or a circumstance in life that's long gone, the people that's done us wrong, or the circumstances well over. There's nothing you can do about it now. The people are dead and gone. There's nothing you can do about them. It's in your mind. It's in our mind. It's alive in our mind. And that's why on a continual basis you have to bring yourself before God. Lord, help me. Help me to meditate upon your word. Help me to clean my mind out. Help me to have the mind of Christ, to think like Christ, to think whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is holy, whatsoever is good report. You have to replace, this is what it's talking about. It's talking about replacing your thought life. Get the old thoughts out, the issues out, and replace it with good thoughts. Because if you don't replace it with good thoughts, the other thoughts will just fill your mind up once again. Closing this evening, you have to take responsibility for your thinking. You have to take responsibility for your choices. And you have to take responsibility for your attitude and your issues. You have to take responsibility for your own joy this evening. No, that's what we need to do. Just say, you know what, I'm going to take responsibility. I don't take an easy responsibility, but you know what, I'm going to take ownership of this. I'm going to take responsibility for my own joy. I'm going to sort out. I'm going to put some of these things. I'm going to fine tune my life. I'm going to make some alterations. I'm going to just twist that little knob around in my life in my head, and I'm going to sort things out because you know what, I'm not going to lose my joy. I'm going to retain and I'm going to maintain my joy. God bless you this evening.